Tom Chen sat in his small apartment on Mars Colony 7, still wearing his military uniform from another long day of patrol duty. The red dust of Mars covered his boots, and his body ached from walking the perimeter for 12 hours straight. He was about to heat up another ration meal when his communication device beeped with an incoming message. The hologram that appeared made him drop his fork. It was Princess Zara of Velthora, the alien royal he had helped save 6 months ago during the raider attacks. Her skin glowed with a soft blue light, and her large silver eyes looked directly at him through the recording. "Honored warrior Tom," she said in her musical voice. The universal translator converted her words into perfect English. "I send you greetings from the crystal world of Velthora. Your brave actions during the dark time brought light to our people. It would bring great joy to my heart if you would attend my binding ceremony in 7 cycles of our sun." Tom stared at the message in shock. A royal wedding invitation. Him, a simple soldier from Earth, being invited to an alien princess's wedding. The translator continued converting her words as she explained the ceremony would be held in the Grand Crystal Palace, and that his presence would honor both their worlds. "Transport has been arranged," Princess Zara continued. "Please confirm your attendance so proper preparations can be made. Until we meet again, may your path be filled with starlight." The hologram faded, leaving Tom alone with his thoughts. He remembered the battle 6 months ago clearly. The raiders had attacked Velthora without warning, seeking to steal their precious energy crystals. Earth's military had responded to their call for help, and Tom's unit had been part of the rescue mission. During the fighting, Tom had found Princess Zara trapped under fallen debris in her palace. 3 raiders were closing in on her position. Without thinking about his own safety, Tom had charged forward, fighting off all 3 aliens with just his plasma rifle and combat knife. He had then lifted the heavy stone beam off her legs, carrying her to safety while laser fire exploded around them. The princess had looked into his eyes as he set her down in the medical area. She had said something in her language that the translator had rendered as, "You have captured something precious." Tom had assumed she meant her life or maybe her freedom. He had simply nodded and returned to battle. Now, apparently, that act of heroism had earned him an invitation to her wedding. Tom felt honored but also nervous. He had never been to an alien royal ceremony before. What should he wear? What kind of gift would be appropriate? How should he behave around alien nobility? Tom sent back his confirmation immediately. The next few days were a blur of preparation. He researched Velthorans online, learning about their crystal-based technology and their deep respect for courage and honor. Their society seemed peaceful but formal, with many ancient traditions. He decided to wear his best dress uniform, the dark blue one with all his medals. For a gift, he chose a collection of earth flowers that would survive the journey in stasis pods. Roses, lilies, and cherry blossoms that he thought might appeal to an alien princess. The research had mentioned that Velthorans appreciated natural beauty. The transport ship arrived exactly on schedule. It was unlike anything Tom had ever seen. The hull seemed to be made of living crystal that shifted colors in the light. The Velthorans who greeted him were tall and elegant, with the same glowing blue skin as Princess Zara. They treated him with tremendous respect, bowing deeply when he boarded. "Honored guest," the ship's captain said through the translator. "We are blessed to carry such a celebrated warrior to our homeworld. Princess Zara speaks of your courage often." Tom felt embarrassed by the attention but tried to accept it gracefully. The journey to Velthora took 3 days through hyperspace. Tom spent the time learning more about Velthorans' culture and practicing basic phrases in their language, though the translator made communication easy. When they finally arrived at Velthora, Tom gasped at the planet's beauty. The entire surface seemed to sparkle like a giant gemstone. Cities made of crystal rose from valleys filled with rainbow-colored plants. 3 small moons hung in the purple sky, each one glowing with soft light. The crystal palace where Princess Zara lived was the most beautiful building Tom had ever seen. It rose from the center of the capital city like a mountain made of pure diamond. Streams of colored light flowed through its walls, creating patterns that shifted and danced. A group of Velthrons met Tom at the landing platform. They wore flowing robes made of fabric that seemed to contain tiny stars. Their leader, an elderly female with silver hair that reached the ground, stepped forward. "Welcome, brave Tom of Earth," she said with a deep bow. "I am Elder Mira, keeper of the sacred traditions. We have prepared everything for your arrival." Tom bowed back, trying to match their formal manner. "Thank you for having me, Elder Mira. I am honored to attend Princess Zara's wedding ceremony." Elder Mira smiled, but Tom noticed something strange in her expression. It looked almost like surprise mixed with amusement. "Yes," she said slowly. "The binding ceremony will indeed be memorable. Please, follow me. We must prepare you properly for such an important event." Tom followed the group through corridors filled with floating crystals that provided light. The walls showed moving pictures of Velthrin's history, including battles, celebrations, and royal ceremonies. Servants bowed as they passed, whispering excitedly in their musical language. They led him to a luxurious suite with windows that looked out over the crystal city. The furniture seemed to grow from the floor itself, shaped from the same living crystal as the palace walls. A bath had been prepared, filled with water that glowed with soft blue light. "You must cleanse yourself before the ceremony," Elder Mira explained. "It is our custom for honored guests to purify both body and spirit before witnessing a sacred binding." Tom nodded and thanked them. After they left, he soaked in the strange but pleasant water. It felt warm and tingly, and somehow it seemed to wash away not just dirt but also his tiredness and worry. When he emerged, he felt more refreshed than he had in months. Servants returned with what they called ceremonial robes. The fabric was similar to what the other Velthrons wore, filled with tiny points of light that looked like distant stars. Tom felt awkward wearing such fancy clothes, but he wanted to show respect for their customs. "You look magnificent," Elder Mira said when she saw him. "Truly worthy of such a sacred occasion." Again, Tom noticed that strange look in her eyes, like she knew something he did not. But he pushed the feeling aside. These were alien customs, after all. Perhaps all wedding guests received such special treatment. They brought him a meal of fruits and vegetables unlike anything on earth. The food glowed softly and tasted like starlight might taste, if starlight had flavor. Sweet and refreshing, it seemed to fill him with energy. As evening approached, more Velthrons began arriving at the palace. Tom could see them from his window, walking through the crystal streets in their formal robes. All of them seemed excited and happy. Music began playing somewhere in the palace, beautiful sounds that made his heart feel light. Elder Mira returned as the sun was setting. "It is time," she said. "Princess Zara is ready, and the ceremony must begin under the light of our 3 moons." Tom picked up his gift of earth flowers and followed her through the palace corridors. The music grew louder as they walked. Other Velthrons joined them, all wearing their finest clothes and jewelry made of glowing crystals. They entered a great hall with a domed ceiling that showed the night sky above. The 3 moons were rising, casting their combined light through the crystal walls. Hundreds of Velthrons had gathered, all facing toward an altar made of pure white stone. Tom expected to be led to a seat among the other guests, but instead Elder Mira guided him toward the front of the hall. Princess Zara was there, wearing a gown that seemed to be made of liquid moonlight. She was even more beautiful than Tom remembered, her silver eyes bright with emotion. When Princess Zara saw Tom approaching, her face lit up with joy. She said something in her language that made all the gathered Velthrons cheer and applaud. The translator rendered her words as, "My heart soars to see you here for this moment we have both awaited." Tom smiled and bowed, offering her the earth flowers. "Congratulations, Princess Zara. I am honored to witness your happiness on this special day." She accepted the flowers with tears of joy in her eyes. "Thank you for bringing beauty from your world to ours," she said. "These will make the ceremony even more meaningful." Elder Mira raised her hands, and the crowd fell silent. "We gather under the blessed light of our 3 moons to witness a sacred binding," she announced. "A union that will join not just 2 hearts, but 2 worlds in friendship and alliance." Tom felt proud to represent Earth at such an important diplomatic event. He stood respectfully as Elder Mira continued the opening ceremonies, describing the ancient traditions and the meaning of the binding ritual. But as the ceremony progressed, Tom began to notice something strange. Instead of leading Princess Zara to where her groom should be waiting, Elder Mira gestured for Tom to step forward and stand beside the princess. Tom looked around confused. Where was the groom? Why was he being positioned at the altar? The crowd of Veltharans watched him with expectant faces, their eyes shining with excitement and joy. Princess Zara took his hand gently, her skin warm and soft. She looked into his eyes with an expression of love and hope that made his heart race with sudden understanding and growing alarm. Tom's hand trembled as Princess Zara held it gently. The warmth of her touch sent confusion racing through his mind. He looked around the great crystal hall, searching desperately for the groom who should be standing where he was now positioned. "Elder Mira," Tom whispered urgently, trying not to disturb the ceremony. "Where is the princess's husband-to-be? I think there has been some mistake with the seating arrangements." Elder Mira smiled at him with kind eyes that seemed to sparkle with ancient wisdom. "There is no mistake, honored warrior Tom. You stand exactly where you belong." The words hit Tom like a blast of cold space air. His stomach dropped as the meaning became clear. Around him, hundreds of Veltharans watched with joyful faces, their crystal jewelry catching the moonlight from above. They were all looking at him with the expectation of seeing a groom at his wedding. "I don't understand," Tom said, his voice barely audible. "Princess Zara is getting married today, but not to me. I'm just a guest. I received an invitation to attend her wedding ceremony." Princess Zara's silver eyes filled with concern as she heard his words through the translator. She spoke quickly in her musical language, and Elder Mira nodded gravely before responding. "Honored Tom," Elder Mira said gently. "It appears there has been a great misunderstanding between our peoples. What you received was not an invitation to attend a wedding. It was a formal acceptance of your marriage proposal." Tom felt the world spinning around him. "Marriage proposal? But I never proposed to anyone. I don't understand what you mean." Elder Mira raised her hand, and the crowd of Veltharans waited patiently as she explained. "Among our people, proposals are not made with words. They are made through great acts of courage and devotion. 6 months ago, when you risked your life to save Princess Zara from the raiders, when you fought 3 enemies alone and carried her to safety, that was your marriage proposal according to our ancient customs." The memory came flooding back to Tom. The battle, the debris, Princess Zara trapped and helpless. He had acted on pure instinct, doing what any decent person would do to help someone in danger. But to the Veltharans, it had meant something completely different. When Princess Zara said you had captured something precious, Elder Mira continued, she was not speaking of her life or freedom. She was saying you had captured her heart. By your actions, you asked for her hand in marriage. By sending you the invitation to this binding ceremony, she accepted your proposal. Princess Zara stepped closer to Tom, her face filled with worry as she saw his shocked expression. She spoke rapidly in her language, and the translator converted her words. "Have I misunderstood your feelings, brave Tom? When you saved my life with such dedication and courage, did you not mean to show love for me? Have I made a terrible error in believing you wanted to join our hearts together?" Tom saw the pain and confusion in her beautiful silver eyes. This proud alien princess, daughter of an advanced civilization, thought he had proposed marriage and then changed his mind. The entire hall of witnesses waited for his response, their previous joy beginning to turn to concerned whispers. "Princess Zara," Tom said carefully, "on my world, when someone is in danger, we help them because it is the right thing to do. I saved you because I could not bear to see harm come to an innocent person. I had no idea that my actions would be seen as a marriage proposal. A gasp went through the crowd as the translator shared Tom's words. Princess Zara's face went pale, her glowing skin dimming with distress. Elder Mira looked grave as she spoke with several other Veltharans who had approached the altar. "This is indeed a serious matter," Elder Mira announced to the gathering. "There has been a great misunderstanding between our cultures. The human Tom did not intend his heroic rescue to be a proposal of marriage." The crowd began murmuring more loudly, and Tom could hear concern and disappointment in their musical voices. Some of the Veltharans looked angry, as if he had deliberately deceived their princess. Others looked sad, as if witnessing a tragedy. Princess Zara straightened her shoulders and spoke with royal dignity, though Tom could see tears forming in her silver eyes. "Then I have brought shame upon both our houses by misunderstanding human customs. I apologize to the honored warrior Tom for my mistake, and to my people for creating this situation." But Elder Mira held up her hand before Tom could respond. "There is more that must be discussed before any decisions are made. This binding ceremony is not just about the hearts of two individuals. It carries great importance for both our worlds." She gestured to a group of officials who stepped forward, including several humans that Tom recognized as Earth diplomats. Ambassador Chen, Tom's distant cousin who worked for the Earth government, approached with a serious expression. "Tom," Ambassador Chen said quietly, "I know this is shocking, but there are political considerations here that go beyond personal feelings. The alliance between Earth and Velthra depends heavily on this marriage union." Tom stared at his cousin in disbelief. "You knew about this? You knew I was supposed to be getting married and you didn't warn me?" "We thought you understood," Ambassador Chen replied. "When Princess Zara sent formal notification to Earth's government that she had accepted your proposal, we assumed you had spoken with her during the rescue mission. The military alliance treaty was signed based on this promised union." Elder Mira nodded gravely. "The marriage between Princess Zara and the human hero Tom was to seal the bonds between our peoples. Our planet's Council of Elders agreed to share our crystal technology with Earth in exchange for military protection, but only if the alliance was strengthened by a royal marriage." Tom felt trapped in a nightmare. Around him, both human and Velthran's officials watched with tense expressions. The fate of two worlds seemed to rest on his shoulders, all because of a cultural misunderstanding. "What happens if I don't go through with this?" Tom asked reluctantly. Ambassador Chen and Elder Mira exchanged worried glances. "The alliance treaty becomes void," Ambassador Chen explained. "Earth loses access to Velthran crystal technology that could revolutionize our energy systems. More importantly, Velthra loses Earth's military protection. The raiders who attacked us before will return," Elder Mira added. "They know our defenses are weak without Earth's help. Thousands of Veltharans' lives depend on this alliance continuing." Tom looked at Princess Zara, who was listening to the conversation with growing distress. Despite her royal training, he could see how much the situation was hurting her. She had genuinely believed he loved her, had prepared for a happy marriage, and now found herself in the middle of a diplomatic crisis. "But I cannot force someone to marry against their will," Princess Zara said with quiet dignity. "That would be wrong by the laws of both our peoples. If Tom does not wish to be my husband, then we must find another way to maintain the alliance between our worlds." The crowd of Veltharans had fallen silent, sensing the gravity of the situation. Tom could feel hundreds of eyes watching him, waiting to see what choice he would make. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him like the gravity of a gas giant. Tom thought about his simple life as a soldier. He had never wanted to be a diplomat or a political figure. All he had wanted was to serve his duty and maybe find a quiet place to settle down someday. But fate had put him in a position where his personal choice would affect the lives of countless beings on two different worlds. He looked again at Princess Zara, really studying her face for the first time since arriving on Velthra. She was beautiful, certainly, with her glowing blue skin and silver eyes. But more than that, he could see intelligence and kindness in her expression. Even in this difficult moment, she was more concerned about doing the right thing than protecting her own feelings. "Princess Zara," Tom said slowly, may I ask you something personal? She nodded, giving him her full attention. Did you want to marry me because you truly have feelings for me, or because it was your duty to your people? The question seemed to surprise her. She considered her answer carefully before speaking. When you saved my life, I felt something I had never experienced before. Gratitude, yes, but also a desire to know you better as a person. When I learned of your courage and honor through our intelligence reports, those feelings grew stronger. I began to hope that our marriage would be based on genuine affection, not just political necessity. Tom felt something shift in his chest as he listened to her honest words. This was not just a spoiled princess looking for a romantic adventure. This was a thoughtful leader who genuinely cared about her people and had hoped to find personal happiness as well. But, Princess Zara continued, I understand now that you do not share those feelings. I will not trap you in an unwanted marriage, even if it means disaster for the alliance. Some things are more important than political agreements. The sincerity in her voice made Tom's decision crystallize in his mind. But before he could speak, Elder Mira stepped forward with an urgent expression. There is one more thing that must be considered, she announced. According to ancient Veltharan's law, once a binding ceremony has begun, it cannot be simply cancelled. The ritual must be completed in some form, or it will bring terrible fortune to both parties involved. Tom's heart sank as he realized the situation had become even more complicated than he had imagined. Tom stared at Elder Mira as her words sank in. The binding ceremony could not be cancelled once started, according to ancient Veltharan's law. The weight of the situation pressed down on him like the crushing depth of an ocean. Hundreds of alien faces watched him with growing concern, while the Earth diplomats whispered urgently among themselves. What exactly does that mean? Tom asked carefully. What happens if the ceremony is not completed properly? Elder Myra's expression grew solemn as she consulted with other elderly Veltharans who had gathered near the altar. Their musical voices created a harmony of worry as they discussed ancient traditions that had not been questioned for centuries. According to our oldest laws, Elder Mira finally explained, an interrupted binding ceremony brings misfortune to both parties. They will never find true happiness in love, and their families will suffer hardship for 7 generations. It is considered one of the worst curses that can befall our people. Princess Zara gasped, her silver eyes widening with alarm. She spoke quickly in her language, and Tom could hear the distress in her voice even without the translator. I cannot allow such a curse to fall upon brave Tom because of my mistake, Princess Zara said through the translator. If ancient law demands completion of the ceremony, then I will bear the consequences alone. Tom should return to Earth immediately, before the curse can affect him. But Tom found himself stepping forward instead of backward. Something in Princess Zara's willingness to sacrifice her own happiness to protect him stirred a feeling he had not expected. Here was someone who barely knew him, yet she was prepared to face a lifetime of misfortune rather than trap him in an unwanted marriage. Wait, Tom said, raising his hand to address the crowd. Before anyone makes any permanent decisions, I need to understand something about Veltharan's culture. Elder Mira nodded respectfully. Ask what you will, honored warrior. You said that among your people, marriage proposals are made through acts of courage and devotion. What I want to know is this, can the proposal be changed or modified after it is made? The question seemed to puzzle the Veltharans. They spoke among themselves in their musical language, clearly discussing something that had never been considered before. Princess Zara watched Tom with curious eyes, wondering what he was thinking. I do not understand your meaning, Elder Mira said finally. A proposal through heroic action is either accepted or rejected. How can it be changed? Tom smiled, feeling the spark of an idea that might solve their impossible situation. On Earth, we have something called courtship. When two people are interested in each other, they spend time together to learn about each other before making the final commitment of marriage. They might go on what we call dates, sharing meals and activities, talking about their hopes and dreams. The Veltharans listened with fascination as Tom continued. What if, instead of completing a traditional binding ceremony today, we modified my original proposal. Instead of asking Princess Zara to marry me immediately, what if I asked her to court me? To give us both time to truly know each other before making such an important decision. Princess Zara's face lit up with hope and interest. She had never heard of such a custom, but the idea appealed to her greatly. You mean we would spend time together as friends first, learning about each other's hearts and minds? Exactly, Tom said, feeling more confident as he saw her positive reaction. We could honor both our cultures. The ceremony would be completed, but instead of immediate marriage, it would be a formal agreement to explore whether we are truly compatible. But Elder Mira looked troubled. The ancient laws speak only of binding or rejection. There is no tradition of delayed commitment in our ceremonies. Tom turned to address the entire gathering, both Veltharans and humans. His voice carried the authority of someone who had faced danger and made life-or-death decisions on the battlefield. Then perhaps it is time to create a new tradition, Tom announced. One that honors the courage of your ancient ways but also embraces the wisdom of taking time to build real understanding between two people. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, his diplomatic mind already working on the implications. From Earth's perspective, this could actually strengthen the alliance, he said. A courtship period would allow both our peoples to observe how well our cultures can blend together. Princess Zara spoke excitedly to Elder Mira in their language. Tom could see the passion in her silver eyes as she argued for this new approach. Other young Veltharans in the crowd began murmuring with interest, clearly intrigued by the concept of choosing love rather than simply accepting arranged matches. Elder Mira consulted with the other elders for several long minutes. The entire hall waited in tense silence as the ancient leaders debated this unprecedented situation. Finally, Elder Mira returned to the altar with a thoughtful expression. The Council of Elders finds wisdom in your proposal, Tom of Earth, she announced. While we have no tradition of courtship, we do have laws that allow for the modification of sacred ceremonies when both parties agree and when the change serves a greater good. The crowd erupted in excited chatter as Elder Mira continued. Princess Zara has agreed to this courtship arrangement. The ceremony will be completed, but instead of immediate binding, you will be formally betrothed with the understanding that the final marriage will take place only if both parties choose it freely after 1 full year of courtship. Tom felt relief wash over him like cool water after a desert march. But more than relief, he felt genuine excitement about the possibility of getting to know Princess Zara as a person rather than as a political necessity. There is one more condition, Elder Mira added. During this courtship year, Tom must remain on Velthara for at least half the time, learning our ways and allowing Princess Zara to learn his. This will show both peoples how well your cultures can work together. Tom nodded eagerly. I accept those terms completely. Princess Zara stepped forward and took Tom's hands again, but this time her touch felt different. Instead of nervous ceremony, there was warmth and genuine affection. I look forward to learning about Earth customs, she said with a bright smile. And I hope you will find our world interesting enough to want to stay. I think I already do, Tom replied, surprised to realize he meant it. Elder Mira raised her hands to address the crowd. Let it be recorded that on this day, under the light of our 3 moons, a new tradition was born. Princess Zara of Velthara and Tom Chen of Earth have entered into formal courtship, bringing together 2 worlds in friendship and understanding. The crowd cheered with joy that echoed through the Crystal Palace. Music began playing again, and Veltharans started dancing in celebration. The Earth diplomats looked relieved that the political crisis had been avoided, while the alliance remained strong. Over the following months, Tom discovered that courtship with an alien princess was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Princess Zara showed him wonders of Velthara that few outsiders had ever seen. They flew together on creatures that looked like crystal butterflies with wings of pure light. They explored underwater cities beneath Velthara's glowing seas. They shared meals of foods that tasted like music and starlight. More importantly, they talked. Princess Zara was fascinated by Earth's history, especially stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Tom was amazed by Veltharan science and their deep connection to the natural world. They discovered they both loved exploring new places, helping others, and dreaming about the future. Tom taught Princess Zara about human concepts like democracy, individual choice, and the importance of questioning tradition. Princess Zara taught Tom about Velthorn's harmony, their respect for all living things, and their belief that true strength comes from unity. Their courtship became famous across both worlds. Young Velthorns began asking for courtship periods before their arranged marriages. Earth couples started incorporating Velthorn's rituals of courage and devotion into their relationships. On the day before their year of courtship ended, Tom and Princess Zara sat together on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. The 3 moons hung in the purple sky, just as they had during the ceremony that had brought them together. "Do you regret the misunderstanding that started all this?" Princess Zara asked. Tom considered the question as he watched the lights dancing through the crystal buildings below. "A year ago, I would have said yes. I was terrified of the responsibility and the changes it would bring to my life. And now?" Princess Zara asked softly. Tom turned to look at her, seeing not just the beautiful alien princess but the intelligent, caring woman he had come to know. "Now I think sometimes the best things in life happen when we are brave enough to try something completely new." Princess Zara smiled, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Tomorrow we must choose whether to complete our binding or remain friends. Do you know what you want to decide?" Tom reached for her hand, feeling the warmth of her glowing skin. "I know exactly what I want to choose. The question is, do you?" She squeezed his hand gently, her answer shining clearly in her eyes. The year of courtship had taught them both that love could grow between any 2 people willing to understand and respect each other, no matter how different their worlds might be. The next day, under the light of Velthor's 3 moons, Tom and Princess Zara completed their binding ceremony with joy in their hearts and the blessing of 2 worlds. Their marriage became a symbol of how courage, understanding, and respect could bridge any gap between different peoples. And in the years that followed, as Earth and Velthora grew closer through trade, technology, and friendship, many would say that the greatest alliance between their worlds was not written in treaties or trade agreements, but in the love story of a human soldier and an alien princess who proved that the heart knows no boundaries between the stars.